And I hope that we get to see a little bit more of that as the tournament continues, because personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Xiaohu on Gragas.
Yeah, I think watching him miss body slam bot lane yesterday may have put in a lot of people's minds that he should be on carries, and you can see it's in Pentanet's mind as well. They get rid of the Lucian to start us off here. Morgana banned away by RNG, and there's the Renekton taken away as well by Pentanet.
So a lot of topside focus coming out from the side of Pentanet. Obviously, as we mentioned, these two teams have fought a fair number of times, and Pentanet have had this opportunity to try a number of different strategies up against RNG. They've had carries in the jungle, carries top lane, carries bot lane. They've kind of tried a wealth of different strategies. I believe we even had a Kiana in mid lane coming out from Chaz playing up against Cryan, where Chaz said in the whole chat, I will solo kill you. And he did, to be fair, he did solo kill him. He lost the game, but he did solo kill him. So we'll see what Pentanet have prepared for this rematch once more, as Nautilus now taken off the board. Varus, pretty consistent red side ban throughout this tournament, one of the highest bans of MSI so far, with the amount of power, engage, and scaling that the champion does have. And the Kiana ban does come out from RNG, so that respect being shown that they do not want to have to deal with it.
Well, we'll see where Pentanet decide to go. Straight away, they will lock in the Lee Sin. Expectations are at the moment that Lee Sin goes towards the top lane, and RNG resorting to comfort here. Gala eyeing up his Kai'Sa. Instead, it looks like they're going to go for the Udyr first.
I like this a lot because I think that, and the Rumble. Wow, okay, so remember that this Rumble could be used in both top lane and in mid lane, a very flexible champion, and you'd be denying pretty much all of the S-tier junglers that exist in the current patch. So if RNG do decide to do this, I think that it's really going to pinch the champion pool availability for Pentanet. But it looks like they're not going to do it.
They're not even going to go for the Kai'Sa as well, which is slightly surprising to me. Instead, Kog'Maw will be picked. Now, I will say, one of the last times these two teams met, Pentanet brought out Kog Lulu in the bottom lane, and they were 18,000 gold behind at the 24-minute mark. So perhaps RNG are saying, anything you can do, we can do much better with this draft.
I would love a Thresh pick from Pentanet. I think that if the expectation is that the Lulu is going to come through, I love Thresh as an answer. Yep. And what better champion than to pair it up with other than... Ooh, are they gonna... They're gonna flip the Kog Lulu and do a Aphelios Lulu themselves. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of the Aphelios Lulu just because of the range difference. I feel like that Kog'Maw with the W can be very difficult to deal with. I would have preferred something like a Jinx because you have that extra bit of range. I think that, especially in the current meta with the late game fights, it can be very potent. But regardless, they're going to stick with the Aphelios. I think the 2v2 laning is going to be a little difficult when going up against the Karma. Of course, there is the possibility that this Karma is flexed, can be played in mid lane, can be played top lane. But in any case, I expect it to be in bot. I expect that primarily to be in the 2 versus 2. And we're going to get Enchanter supports, which is something we don't get very often.
To Worlds 2018. Is it Ardent Sensor meta all over again?
Was that 2017?
2017, yeah. Ardent Sensor meta all over again, it seems. Moonstone Manure, of course, has been love tapped over the last few patches, nowhere near as strong as it was, but you can still go. Ardent Sensor, Redemption, still a strong support item as well if you are going to go towards one of these enchanters. Rumble taken away here by RNG. They're not going to give Pentanet a strong jungler, or at least one of those S-tier junglers, and alongside that, actually, they're going to take the Urgot out of the pool, so perhaps respecting the fact that Chaz could play this Lee Sin mid.
Yeah, quite right. BioPanther has actively played the Urgot top. I also think it suggests RNG is considering a Gnar top lane pick. Does obviously offer a pretty safe laning phase if they want to blind pick that to give Cryan the counter pick. Is something that I think give them a lot of options. Ooh, instead they're going to go for the Jace. So I quite like this. Putting Xiao once again on that carry top lane, something that he played a lot during the LPL playoffs. Noguri was able to successfully punish him a fair number of times on it. The question is, will BioPanther be able to do the same thing? Because with champions like the Urgot removed, what RNG is saying is you don't really have many carry top laners left that you could potentially stop us with. So BioPanther saying, yeah, I don't need a carry. I'm just going to lock in a tank.
Instead just goes for the Scion. We'll see where Pentanet wants to go with their jungle pick here. Olaf is the Hobbit, will be locked in. We've seen Wei pilot that a couple of times throughout this tournament. And this time it will be in the hands of Pabu. Strong carry, team him up with the Lulu in the mid game as well. He can run rampant through the enemy backline.
True.
The concern always is he going to be able to keep pace with Wei, who is playing this Udyr, one of the strongest farming junglers in the early game?
I agree with you, Medic. That's going to be a big question mark, as it looks like right now RNG is going to round their composition out with the Sylas. How many ults does he have to steal? Lulu ult?
I mean, he's got 5, Vedius, that's how it works.
Okay. I mean, are the quality of the ults that he can steal good? And it looks like that. I'm actually not sure what happens when he steals Aphelios' ult.
Right now.
Yeah. Does he just steal, like, I don't know. We'll find out. Always something new to learn when it comes to Sylas ults. I was having this conversation yesterday about what happens when you steal Twitch's ult. Don't do it. It's not what you think might happen, just doesn't. In any case, there are a couple of good ults to steal, but let's have a look at RNG's comp. A little bit more split map, a little bit more playing towards side lanes, kind of, again, how they traditionally played during the regular season of the LPL. A lot of priority towards the top side, having a little bit more of a weak side bot. I think it's a little harder to play weak side bot when you are playing enchanters, but when you have an enchanter versus enchanter matchup, it's a little bit easy. I will also say RNG don't have the strongest or most reliable engage tools to actually start fights off, so I would say RNG kind of need to get ahead. Now, they have been very good when playing against Pentanet at getting ahead in the early game, but this is a composition where I think we're going to see the same thing that we saw yesterday from RNG. Huge investment into Xiaohu, funneling resources into him, making sure that he has advantages in the early game and is able to punish BioPanther up towards the top side, while also trying to shut down Pabu and limit his presence in the early game.
Once again, we see Pentanet facing off against RNG. Currently, it is 4-0 in favor of RNG. One of only 2 undefeated teams so far in the Rumble stage. RNG are looking to make it 3 in a row. Pentanet have struggled to put up a challenge, but we've already heard from their coach that they are willing to take the fight to the LPL #1 seed. We'll see if they can do it as we get on to Summoner's Rift. Vedi, I will say, had a quick Google.
Yeah.
Looks like he takes the main guns ability. So if you take Infernum, if Aphelios has Infernum, Sylas will take that and flames everywhere.
Oh.
If it's Crescendum, you get hula hoops.
So it depends on what Aphelios
What gun he has at the time.
I see.
I will say, that was on a quick Google. I apologize if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Well, we'll find out if he even chooses to steal the Aphelios ult, because it might just not be worth it, and instead he might just steal the Olaf ultimate, which is CC
the Lee Sin ultimate, the Sion ultimate, the Wild Growth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that of the choices he has, there are a number of better ones. Now, Pentanet look to be doing something a little sneaky here in this level 1. I can see a ward has been put down, 2 wards in fact, towards both the bot and top. RNG getting a little bit cheeky here. They're looking to invade. You can see the question mark pings coming down from Pentanet, like what are they up to? A bit of deep vision coming out from the RNG bot lane, but it seems to me that Pentanet are doing a similar play to what we saw from Cloud9. The Sion does a solo buff, may end up killing himself in order to secure that buff, and then perhaps holding bot side of the map. He's actually going to do Raptors as well. But then you also get the red buff that you're currently seeing Pentanet steal away. So this will allow them to 3 buff while also getting their duo playing into Xiaohu. Now the advantages of this are that Xiaohu, it becomes harder for him to get ahead in the early game, largely because, lo and behold, he is playing in a 2 versus 1 lane. He's in a very awkward spot. Let's see what happens.
Jumps onto Decoy. Predator's going to put quite a lot of damage down. Xiaohu does still have the flash and will be able to walk back underneath his tower, but he is going to be forced away from the jungle camps. BioPanther has died, picked up the red buff. Now he will let his zombie form expire, get a free base, and then look to go down towards the bottom lane as that wave pushes it.
So currently still level 1, but by taking the first cycle of Raptors, it's going to spawn the next level up, which allows Pabu to go and get them, but also denies Wave from actually being able to do them. You can see he's currently pathing towards Krugs, also potentially setting up for a dive towards the bot side of the map. But there's not going to be anything else for him to steal. He's losing a lot of his top side camps, and this is going to give a huge advantage over towards Pabu. But let's see what Wave does as a result. The wave is starting to stack. BioPanther currently not level 2, but he's just going to tick over for it. And that's also why you're... stealing away those camps is very valuable because it gives him that initial XP to get that level 2, so he's not dived at level 1, still has the flash, TP is available for Chaz, he's looking to base, but let's see what happens.
Decimating Smash will clear out the minions, tower being tanked, BioPanther will fall, Gala gets it and survives, takes away a red buff, and Wei will walk in for the stun just to try and stop BioPanther from clearing out this wave. No TP from Chaz, importantly, but BioPanther does still have a TP of his own and will use it to get back to this lane.
And what was interesting there is BioPanther even had a minion dematerializer, which he used on the cannon, so he didn't even miss that CS. So he is still level 3, as we see a bit of a trade in mid.
Ryan going in. Doesn't have an aggressive summoner, only the flash teleport, so no ignite or anything to help him win out this lane, but he will force Chaz away. Importantly, Xiaohu was able to survive a possible dive in the top lane. However, he is at 2 CS 3.5 minutes into this game. Look at BioPanther. Yes, he has died. Only one of those actually went to RNG, but he has 20 more farm. He has tons, 1,000% more CS than Xiaohu right now.
I'm telling you, that was a tactical death,
yeah.
Medic. I think that was, in the rare instance where you can say that death was worth it, just because of the experience and gold that he was able to get, that Xiaohu could not get on the top side. Yes, Xiaohu did not lose his life, but look at how far behind he is right now. The fact that BioPanther has such a huge level advantage, the fact that Xiaohu in this early laning phase was put so far behind, and also he was able to push in the bot wave, which means that as it's now starting to bounce back, Pentanet have enough time to be able to swap towards the bot side and actually catch that farm. Now, Gala and Ming, because they were first on the swap, they are actually a little bit ahead in CS because they were able to push in bots, get that early reset thanks to the kill. They then get to spend their money, and then they immediately go to top side. But RNG are constantly trying to play catch up here, as we see Chaz once again getting very low, Decoy and Pabu in the mid.
Decoy's going to try and whimsy himself forward, getting the movement speed, but can't quite catch out Cryin, who will just catch this wave himself. I just want to come back to something that Emily said on the analyst desk. She wanted to see level 1s from Pentanet. She wanted to see something a little bit more explosive, something a little bit more inventive, and that is what we have seen here. Yes, the gold is even right now, but Wei lost his first red buff. He has lost his entire topside quadrant, and now is behind in this jungle matchup. And you can see Pentanet have been able to keep the early game even, which is not what has happened through the other 4 times these teams have faced.
It's very true, Medic. Let's have a look now as junglers have made their way towards the bot side of the map. I was really hoping that we could see some sort of like stacked wave dive onto top lane with Pabu being level 5, BioPanther 2 levels up onto Xiaohu. With that wave slowly starting to mount, I thought that they would try and set something up, but all they're actually doing is trying to push in bot wave, so guess what? They can swap again. I think this can be a little bit dangerous because if you don't time it right, Gala and Ming can set up a freeze, which can end up denying a lot of farms. Xiaohu's also able to keep getting the CS advantages, and you can see that RNG are actually going to convert this into a Drake. And I think that at some point you have to just commit to either the 2v2 and the 1 versus 1. But for the time being, Pentanet are going to keep this swap going. They're going to send Praedith and Decoy back up towards the top side of the map once more. They're going to catch this wave. And given that they are on the top side of the map and the Herald spawns in about 2 minutes time, I'd like to see Pentanet play towards that objective, because if they can start breaking down these towers, keep investing money into their bot lane, which is you expect to be the primary carry, especially with this Lulu on the lineup. And I think that Pentanet's whole game plan here is just avoiding these 2 versus 2s while also denying Xiaohu as much farm and experience as possible.
See BioPanther about 200 gold ahead of Xiaohu in the 1v1, but it hasn't been a 1v1 at all, as at the moment it is a 3v1 in the bottom lane. Unstoppable Force goes wide. Cryin took the wrong train, had the wrong ticket, but he still goes for the dive. BioPanther just leveled up, it's going to lock down Cryin, and Cryin is down! BioPanther ticking to the ignite will eventually fall, but what a great 1v3 outplay from the Australian top laner.
That was totally worth it for BioPanther. Look, the TP even coming out top lane so that Wei does not get dived. 3 versus 2. I don't think Pentanet can risk this, but I now want to see Chaz pushing in this mid wave. Maybe even, actually, has he set up a bit of a freeze in mids? It looks like no. I'm surprised that he wouldn't try and push this wave in immediately. He doesn't need to hold this wave. Getting the priority and the pressure is way more valuable, I think, and moving with your team. As a fight happens.
Ragnarok coming out way very low, has to flash away, the chase is on, but Cryin was there in time, and Decoy, well, he's next on the menu. 2 quick kills to RNG.
This is exactly why I think Chaz should have just pushed in that mid wave. Push it in, get the wave underneath the tower, and group up with your team. Contest, use your numbers advantage, use the situation and the opportunity that Cryin is actually dead to gain more advantages. Instead, it was Pabu and Decoy versus the top jungle of RNG. You're not going to win out on that 2v2 skirmish. They even flashed in. Cryin arrives to the scene as well. and RNG end up coming out ahead in the skirmish. And you can just see, I feel like in this situation, Pentanet need to be using their waves and their numbers advantage to contest these objectives. He flash over commits, and I feel like that they were likely going to die anyway, especially with the arrival of Cryan. And that actually now puts gold back into the pocket of Zhao, who, yes, he's still behind in experience, which is a big deal, but getting that money is going to be really helpful for him getting back into this game.
Yeah, let's take a look at exactly where we are in terms of state of the game. There's a 400 gold lead for BioPanther in the top lane, but look at the AD carries. Gala is 700 gold ahead. Even though Wei was put behind in the early game, he's basically even with Pabu now as well. And in the mid lane, there's a 500 gold lead for Cryan. So this early rotational play from Pentanet hasn't paid off as much as they'd like. They have stemmed the bleeding, but they are still bleeding slowly.
Exactly right, Medic. I think that Pentanet, the premise was good, but the execution starting to falter just a little bit. I really like this idea. BioPanther was in a really good position, but I think Pentanet was just too committed to avoiding standard lane matchups, you know? They were just really trying hard to avoid playing into Gala and Ming, and now it's kind of at a point where Gala and Ming are gaining so many more advantages. Now, that's not to say that Praedith and Decoy aren't getting money themselves. Praedith hasn't died yet. But the advantages that are being gained everywhere else on the map for RNG is definitely something that they need to deal with. I think that this Herald is going to be really important. We talked about it, but look at where RNG is now. They have their bot lane on the top side of the map, which means that Wei now is in a much better position to be able to contest it. They're going to be able to use that to get the top tower. As Zhao, who he's getting denied even more farm, but he's going to live. And at this point, that is way more valuable because the bot lane is just continuing to get resources, and RNG is just ahead of the game.
And it's the second time we've seen Pentanet actually move their bot lane away from the neutral objective. First time it was that dragon in the bot side that Wei was able to pick up because Gala and Ming were down there. This time, they moved their bot lane away from the Rift Herald, and now Rift Herald is on Wei. He can look to put that down towards the top side if they want for the plates to take down that tower, or he can even funnel plates into Cryan in the mid lane, or even into Zhao, who is once again getting dived. Tries to jump in onto Pabu. Pabu doesn't have the Ragnarok, and Zhao, with the flash, will survive once again.
The thumbs up comes through. He's saying, you know what, you just invested your AD carries flash into trying to kill me, and it didn't work out. Meanwhile, RNG have their eyes set on Chaz.
Chaz gets kicked back straight into the stun. Crying and Wei styling on fools as Chaz goes down. Top lane turret will fall. That's all 5 plates up there. And they will look to put that Rift Herald down mid lane as well, I assume, to funnel more gold into Cryan's pocket.
Beautifully played from Cryan and Wei, stealing away the Lee Sin ultimate to then set up the stun for Wei. Just execution was clean. They're going to get themselves even more plates in mid. Not going to use the Herald just yet.
Still got 2 minutes to use it, so.
But quite right. There's plenty of time for RNG. They've been able to balloon the goal lead to 3K. And again, like, really like the premise, really like the initial idea from Pentanet. I just think that after the initial stages, some of their execution started to falter. They will be able to get the bot tower. Currently sitting at a 2K gold deficit, but mid lane is now falling behind. The early jungle advantage that they were trying to get is also starting to decline, and RNG, even though they've kind of been chasing a lot of Pentanet in the early game, they've actually been able to find a lot of kills. They found that skirmish up top, they found another big pick in mid as well, and they still have that Rift Herald at their disposal. And what they're going to do is likely move their bot lane into mid so they can still get priority and then contest Drake, which is currently alive. Cryan has the TP, so should a big fight break out, he's able to join the fray. And he can also just take the Krugs that are sitting top lane as well. So really good lane assignments from RNG means that they're still going to get anything, and Pentanet's going to continue to be denied.
I think the question for Pentanet is, at what point do you take a fight now? Are you looking at that next Drake after Wei takes this one in 5 minutes' time? Do you need 2-3 items on your Aphelios before you can look to take a big team fight? Because right now, RNG are out macroing them, and this is what we saw through the group stage, through those last 4 games these two teams have played. RNG are just that little bit better at times. Pentanet, though, do still have the tools. Aphelios Lulu so strong in the late game. Chaz on the Lee Sin could catch someone out. If he can get Gala, he's dead, he's donezo. And then on top of that, you don't have as much DPS. Cryan can put out the damage later on the Silas, but right now, he doesn't even have a mythic item. Doesn't even have that Everfrost complete, so he will be behind the curve in terms of pure damage.
Thing is, I kind of feel like RNG's comp still outscales.
Yeah.
Just because I think Olaf... Oh, hang on a second.
All right, here comes the Dragon's Rage. Center opposite sides of the map. Decoy trying to flank here, but that's a support level 6 Lulu. Not going to be able to do too much as Chaz gets a taste of his own medicine and is just about able to survive.
So you're kind of seeing what I meant with the whole scaling thing, right? Where RNG just have such powerful side laners. Even though Xiaohu is behind, Cryin is not. And I don't think anyone can really stop him on a side lane. And what RNG have been praised for is their map movements, their understanding of how to manage their waves. And I think that when you give them a split push comp like this, they know how to play the map very well. They know how to use their pressure. And look, Wei is here to cover Cryin as he pushes in top wave. They can also collapse and help mid, but Gala is just diving with Ming and saying, you know what, this tower belongs to us, get off it, we're gonna secure. And I believe what that is now, 11 plates that they have secured in this early game. So, as great as the strategy was, it has not resulted in an advantage for Pentanet. If anything, Gala has just been allowed to free farm, and this is why RNG is so difficult to deal with, because you sit there and think, we have to stop Xiaohu, because RNG puts so many resources into Xiaohu. When he's playing a carry top lane, we have to deny him and put him behind, and then when you do that, you're then not dealing with Gala. Yeah. And the thing about Gala is he knows how to farm, he's very efficient with his farming, he knows how to take resource, and then he's just a monster in team fights, right? And so, like, RNG seem to have multiple threats that, unless you can, like, go pound for pound, toe-to-toe with them across the board, they feel like such a difficult team to be able to deal with. And I think that's why they get so much of their praise. And look at Cryin right now, still hovering, sitting in the side lane, looking to use the power that he does have.
Yeah, Chaz has stepped a little bit too far forward here. Didn't have vision in his own jungle. Could try and dodge away to a ward and just about escapes from the abduct there out of Cryin. Chaz will be able to walk his way back all the way around here. And maybe we'll see Pentanet trying to find a catch in one of these side lanes. Top lane seems to be the key point right now as Cryin was pushing up, but you can see he pays respect, he backs away. And for the moment, RNG have pretty much total control of this map.
So second Herald is spawning in a little bit, and this time around, Xiaohu has the TP. But RNG ideally want to give him the opportunity to get back into the game. So they're going to leave him bot to push as RNG commit into trying to get a little bit more control of a top side. Chaz and Cryin now in another duel.
Here come the TPs. Pentanet actually have a lot of players on this top side of the map. Chaz with the flash kick, tries to knock Cryin back. He's going to kick him away, and BioPanther knocked to Sunday. Ragnarok coming out, and there's the shutdown. Pabu's on the chase, looking for Wei. Ming trying to join the fight. Meanwhile, down towards the bottom side, Gala's been caught out. Praedith flashes forward and he gets the kill. AD carry versus AD carry, and Praedith comes out on top. 2 quick kills to Pentanet.
So it ends up being 2 for 2 overall.
Oh, Praedith died to the explosion.
BioPanther has to invest his teleports to help out his mid laner, but look at what's happening bot lane. Xiaohu is getting himself towers, he's pushing in these waves, and he's still benefiting. He's getting himself back into the game, and again, this is what's so obnoxious about RNG. You sit there, you think you found a good fight, you think you found an objective, lo and behold, Xiaohu is doing something in a side lane, and it feels like that even though that was a promising fight for Pentanet, it ends up still being advantage over to RNG.
Yeah, it's a 4,500 gold lead for RNG right now. 2 dragons to none, 3 towers to 1, and mythic items complete across the board. Actually, for both teams pretty much. Only Decoy lagging behind a little bit on that first purchase. So perhaps we'll see Pentanet at relatively even strength when we get into this next fight. Of course, there will be some extra gold in the RNG inventory.
So we saw the skirmish up towards the top side in the new Axe Effect replay. A good flash kick from Chaz, but they don't quite have the damage to kill Cryin before. And so what happens here? Gala, in a 1 versus 2, the thing is when Praedith can get the range gap closed, then it's winnable for him. But you saw how much he had to invest in actually to get that kill. I love the little googly eyes on Gala when he died there as well. Kog'Maw just has so much damage, and this is another reason why I think RNG have that scaling advantage, because even though, yes, they don't have that Lulu support, the range... Oh, hang on a second. This is not looking good for Pentanet.
Wei coming round. Chaz going to be able to jump across the wall. Pabu's already popped the Ragnarok here. He's going to get stunned up, and RNG are on the chase. Wild growth across the wall will just be enough to save Pabu for the moment. There's a blast cone available. Abscon goes wide. BioPanther is going to get rooted by that tether. Gala now opening up. Kog'Maw does so much damage, but Praedith just waiting in the bush, and the chakrams of death start to rain down on RNG. Cryin going in with the unstoppable onslaught, but Praedith still has great guns for this fight, and here comes the counter engage. The pain train has entered the station, but Chaz tries to dive into the back line. Tempest hits on 4. 1 for 1 so far as the Dragon goes down in favor of Pentanet, but look at how low RNG are. If Pentanet can somehow get forward, they would be able to pick up a little bit more. Great fight there from Pentanet. They get a kill, and they get the Dragon.
The fact that Pentanet is 5,000 gold behind, yet still found a successful fight, just goes to show the resilience of this team. I thought that was doom and gloom as they were trying to invade in the enemy jungle, but they end up bouncing back, and they actually got a very close fight. Huge props to Chaz. he did a lot of damage, and I want to see in the replay exactly how much damage he does. So let's just keep track of Chaz in this fight. The initial engage comes through from Cryan, RNG's committing to the Drake, and then the ult comes through from BioPanther. The Q does land onto the Cogmore, comes through, and then gets the E onto 4 people, which of course is the skill that you max on mid lane Lee Sin, forces the flash out from Gala, and they're able to actually turn the fight in their favor. So it ends up being 1-for-1, but they do get the Drake. They deny that soul point away from RNG. And Pentanet still showing that they do still have some fight left in them. The problem is the side laners are only getting stronger for RNG. Xiaohu, who was 2 levels behind BioPanther pretty much the entire game, is now caught up and is ahead in farm as well. The Cogmore has completed the 2nd item with the Phantom Dancer. Everfrost now finished for Cryan, and if you just look at the gold, it is advantages just across the board for RNG.
Every single lane is ahead for RNG. Rift Herald will be secured by them as well. Gala gets himself a red buff just to help output even more DPS on that Cogmore. With the Phantom Dancer complete, he is going to be a terror when we get on into these next fights. But thankfully for Pentanet, they have delayed that a little bit, you know? They've got 3 minutes before the next Drake comes up. Maybe this Rift Herald will be used mid by RNG to try and break into the tier 2 line. But for the moment, Pentanet are able just to stand back, let RNG control most of the map and actually not lose too much.
For now, vision control being set up towards the top side. The wave starting to push. I'm curious. I don't think Cryan is Cryan freezing that wave in bot lane? Let me have a quick... No, I don't think he is. He's just kind of letting the wave come into him. Still has his teleport available. Likely wants to try and sync up the waves because he knows that his team is going to reset soon. So notice that he's not going to overextend here. He's a little bit worried about how much control he has over the map. Do also want to quickly mention, we didn't talk about it in draft, but Pentanet do have what is effectively a full AD composition. And I know a lot of question marks came out about Darmon's full AD composition yesterday, but I think one of the biggest things that people need to remember is that sometimes comps can't always itemize against full AD. So Udyr in this situation, very difficult to kill. Right? Yes, of course. But he also doesn't really do a lot of damage, and he's not that much of a threat the later into the game that you go. However, you look at the rest of RNG, there's no armor anywhere, right? So even though Pentanet's comp is full AD, it doesn't really matter that much just because of how hard it can be to itemize against. Now, admittedly, as the game goes on, things like Zhonya's are going to be really powerful for Cryan, but that's also why I think that they do have that scaling advantage. As Praedyth, as you rightly identified, he's on it. Yeah, Praedyth, his spidey senses were tingling there. He was like, hang on, why did they just suddenly disappear? Do they see me? But he's still going to try and go for the Rats, which is a little risky. But yeah, I just wanted to make that comment because obviously this full AD comp, I still think it will get outscaled later on into the game, but I think that's more to do with the range advantage, the fact that they do have very strong side laners, and I think that Pentanet's damage is just difficult to land. I was talking to Kadra yesterday about this, and he was talking about how Olaf against mobile AD carries can be very difficult to play, and like against an immobile carry, you sit there, but it's not immobile, it's got a Karma next to it too, so that Olaf sits there and thinks that you're getting on top of it, and then this Karma just offers so much peel.
RNG trying to up the tempo of the game just a little bit as they start off the Baron. 7,000 HP on it. Pabu's on his way. TP coming in from Chaz, but that's very, very deep, and this Baron might be gone before he can even get there. Pabu running in as quickly as he can, but the Baron has almost gone down. It's taken, secured by Gala, but here comes the fight. Xiaohu locked up. Decoy doing what he can in the middle of this all. BioPanther still alive somehow as well. That's 2 quick kills. Chaz jumps onto Way. Cryan tried to flash away, but Pabu is having none of it. The Baron was a bait, mate. Pentanet GG.
Get themselves a huge team fight in the Baron. That is 4 dead on the side of RNG. We talked about how it can be difficult for Pentanet to get on top of RNG, but I don't think Gala had his flash, and he was locked in a pit with these Pentanet members that were not stopping to get onto the backline. Good execution, good shutdown of RNG, and you can see that that Red Bull Baron power play is not going to work out as nice as they would like.
They don't have their AD carry at all for this fight, Veggies. This is a 4v5.
And it's crucial. Again, look, the Cogmore doesn't have the flash up, so he's just stuck in the pit. Xiaohu ends up getting melted with this duo of Lee Sin and Olaf. And again, like, they can just do so much damage, especially with the Lulu supporting them as well, if they're just given the opportunity to do so. Getting on top of the RNG comp is the hard part, but once they get there, they can just melt through them.
You can see the reaction there. Just like, yep, okay, that happened.
Didn't quite go the way they wanted.
Importantly, Ming does still have Baron, so he can still use that to help push out these waves. Rift Herald was still available for Wei, so he's going to put that down in the mid lane. Dragon was taken by Pentanet while we were in that replay, and now with the Rift Herald charging in and these Baron up minions. Praedith, once again, not with the team. He was pushing out bot lane. This Rift Herald is going to get a charge before Praedith can get there. RNG getting 2 waves of pressure. Top lane now at that tier 2. There's the Rift Herald charge forward, but now Pentanet needs to be a little bit careful around this fight because Gala once again has his flash up. Cryin trying to dash forward, looking to see perhaps if there's a little avenue, a little crack in the armor of Pentanet. For the moment, they will hold strong. That inhibitor still stands. A minute left on the Baron, and it looks like RNG will get a tier 3 in the mid lane and a tier 2 in the top lane, and not too much more out of it.
So, a couple good fights for Pentanet, but unfortunately, they're yet to really swing the game back into their control. 23 minutes in, RNG sit with a comfortable gold lead, control over the map, good deep vision that they don't really care about losing right now because they're going to look to push out these waves and then reset. And the Zhonya's now come through for Cryin, going to make these fights a lot harder for Pentanet to actually win out on.
I will say, one of the last time these two teams met, it was an 18,000 gold lead for RNG at 24 minutes. I will say that 5,500 is a little bit better than that here for Pentanet. Definitely an improvement for them since the group stage. And I'll also note RNG yesterday when they played against C9 had a couple of mid-game fights where they faltered, where C9 were able to get back into it, and now we've seen them do it against Pentanet. Perhaps the Baron a little bit of a greedy play. Of course, RNG still very much in the driver's seat of this game right now. I
mean, it's funny. I have to give big thanks to Kelsey Moser for how much she talked to me about RNG coming into this tournament. And one of the big things she used to talk to me was about how RNG, their team fighting is very mixed. Because like obviously in playoffs, they had some fantastic team fights, right? And even here at MSI, we've seen some really impressive team fights from them. But we've also seen some not so great team fights. Yeah. And a large part of that is just because they're willing to fight even when they don't have the best 5v5 comp. And a large part of what we've been talking about here for RNG is they outscale in the sense that like they have really strong side lanes, right? They can kind of play the map better. They don't have to get into 5v5s. They have like this huge range advantage with the Cogmore as well. But if you just front to back 5v5 team fight, like this is how they can find these advantages, getting these small picks.
Oh, look at the damage from Gala.
Ooh.
Almost kills him off with the Bio-Arcane Barrage. Can't quite land the final ultimate there.
And it's things like this that I think RNG are very good at, you know, controlling that space, forcing you to come and face check them, and then finding that pick so they can get those advantageous fights. But if they fall prey to these 5v5s in situations that are not ideal for them, that is ways in which Pentanet, I think, can actually claw their way back into the game. The question is, how many good fights can they actually find against RNG? Because as we saw against Cloud9 yesterday, RNG are very quick to recognize their failings and then pivot and change. And you can see Xiaohu putting up pressure in a side lane, still has his TP available, pushing in that wave, stealing away camps. Cryin looking to reset, spend a little bit more of that gold. And also his TP is coming up soon. So RNG are just kind of applying pressure all across the map and denying Pentanet as much as possible.
Let's see, Pentanet there trying to set up a little bit of a trap bush. Pabu's going to walk all the way towards this blue buff and realize his way, and Xiaohu are in close proximity and will retreat out of it. 7,000 gold lead for RNG. A minute on the next dragon. It will be the third of the game for either of the teams that ends up securing it. No Ocean Soul yet on Summoner's Rift. And importantly, Gala at 3 items with the Runans, Phantom Dancer, and the Gale Force already complete, whereas Praedith is still waiting on that Lord Dominic's regards, I assume, on the Aphelios.
Once he does get it, I think Pentanet are just going to be like, 5-man ball.
We got to do it at some point. It's the Protoss A move, right? You just get all of your Stalkers, you get all of your Zealots,
yes,
and you A-move into the enemy.
That makes sense, yeah. Never played Saga
Going to do
in
it
my life, but that.
Blade and Soul. You get your Kung Fu Masters.
You don't.
You get
that
other Kung Fu Masters.
Yeah.
I only know Kung Fu Master because I know it's what you play. Okay.
Death Ball also, you could just use League of Legends terms. You know?
You could.
They group as 5, run it down mid. Look, here's the group as 5. Let's see if they run it down mid. The Sion ultimate is available, way on the flank.
Pabu will spot him out, Cryin trying to get in there as well. Ragnarok is available for that Olaf. He takes the Everfrost, he eats the CC. Dragon's Rage now stolen away by Cryin. Gala and Ming can chase by a Panther, he's all on his lonesome. Ooh. Unstoppable Force hits the wall. Wei trying to get in here as well, but you've got to watch Chaz and Praedith. They are the 2 key carries in this fight, and Chaz is almost down, but Praedith has killed off Cryin. 1 for 1, mid laner v mid laner have both gone down. For the moment, Pentanet able to survive. Xiaohu dives in. Predator's going to kill off Ming as well. Gala and Wei, the only two left alive, and Baron is on the cards for Pentanet.
We talked about it, man. RNG keep just trying to... They took the bait. They went for the 5v5, and Pentanet just straight up outplayed them. Gala's positioning was flawless.
Look at the hula hoop of doom. He's got all the shotguns. They fall off. Infernum, Calibrum, Gala stepping forward. Praedith's still alive. Gala has to flash away. Parbu and Biopanther go back to the Baron with a 6,000 HP on it still. Parbu's going to flash onto the Honey Fruit. The Living Artillery doing a lot of work here. Praedith trying to dodge around. He's playing DDR more than he's playing League of Legends right now. He's dancing. The knockup goes in. Wei goes down. Pentanet once again win out the fight. Gala trying to get into this, but now with the TPs coming back from Xiaohu and from Pentanet, we're going to see this brawl continue, crying behind enemy lines. But Pentanet spot him out. They know he's there. Counter TP. Xiaohu's looking for the mid inhib. No way, do they do this again, Vedius? They're looking for the back door.
The waves are being pushed in top and bot. RNG recognize that RNG have TP'd in, and now Cryan goes for another fight.
Chaz has the kick. He knocks it back, and Cryan is doing exactly that. He pops the stopwatch to try and survive for the moment. Xiaohu going in as well. Cryan's still alive. Xiaohu's still alive. RNG's still alive. And Pentanet tried as they might, but you just can't kill the LPL.
Oh my goodness! That was so close from Pentanet. They did so many things right. They punished the misexecution from RNG, but then the TPs come back, the re-engage happens, and then Gala says, I'm not done with you yet. Triple kill from the AD carry comes through. RNG win out the fight, and they're gonna look to end the game.
Try as they might, Pentanet could not get the GG because Royal never give up.
Oh, RNG are being pushed to their limits. Woo! But I think this also showcases some of the weaknesses of RNG, where sometimes they just overcommit to a fight. That's not how they wanted to win that game. They were playing the side lanes well. Pentanet then group up mid as 5 because they had top and bot pushing, and then RNG went for the fight. And initially I was going to say you can see how difficult it is to get onto the Cogmore, but the same can be said for RNG when they're diving onto that Aphelios. He's just melting them, as you rightly said, with the hula hoop of death. And Pentanet, they came so close, but the re-engage, the patience from RNG, they were able to turn it around, and my goodness, Pentanet, huge credit to them because they have clearly shown improvement.
Yeah, you take a freaking bow. Your region was dismantled and you're able to stand against RNG. For now, though, every second counts, and thanks to the reliable Cisco network, Pentanet arrived just in time to win a fight at this Baron. It was a 4v5, Vedius.
It certainly was, and this is a situation where, again, RNG's comp just doesn't thrive. The front line, the meatballs, the bruisers of Pentanet's comp just thrive in this sort of a situation, in this arena where they can fight to the death. And Chaz, he had some sick Lee Sin mechanics in this game, and he was able to make some clutch stuff happen. And this was one of those big fights where we thought Pentanet may very well have been able to turn it around. At the very end, it was just so unfortunate. If one of those TPs was not available, then Pentanet, maybe they're able to do so much more. But like, huge props to Gala, because like, I think he saved the game at the end there. His Cogmore
He distracted them so much.
It was so good. So like, huge props to Gala. Very incredible performance, not only here, but throughout the entire tournament.
And what a great game to start
what
off
a great
the day.
Game.
After the break ended, we'll take a closer look at the lane swap from Pentanet before it's time for a rematch between Damwon Kia and Cloud9.